I would like to ask you a question to begin our journey today. What if what you are looking for so much out there can only be found at the exact moment you decide to stop looking? What if the pain you feel today is the portal to the life you have always sought? Close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath and imagine your heart in silence. If you have arrived in this space today, you may be carrying a weariness that sleep cannot cure. Perhaps you feel that, despite all your searching, reading, and prayers, there is an invisible gear locking your steps. It is as if the universe were watching your effort in silence, while you desperately try to decipher the signs. You are not broken. You are in transformation. In the next lines, we are not going to learn how to do more things. We are going to learn how to silence the noise that prevents your biology from responding to your spirituality. Your body listens to everything your soul whispers. Allow yourself, from now on, to dive into the sacred architecture of your own unified field. The phobia of the void and the addiction to mental noise as mechanisms of escape from one's own reflection. When the lights go out and the sound of the television ceases, what remains is the weight of one's own company. For many of us, this moment is terrifying. We create an unconscious habit of filling every second with notifications, videos, or repetitive thoughts, because looking into the empty space forces us to face the questions we spend our lives trying to avoid. The noise of the world becomes a shield to avoid feeling our own loneliness. The brain in default mode network and how the bombardment of stimuli fragments our vibrational signature. Neuroscience shows us that when we are not focused on an external task, the brain activates the default mode network, a circuit that frequently traps us in ruminations about the past and anxieties about the future. By being constantly bombarded by stimuli, this network remains hyperactive, fragmenting our energy. Our vibrational signature ceases to be a harmonic wave and transforms into a chaotic signal, preventing coherence between the mind and the energetic field. Why praying or asking in excess functions as a noise that repels co-creation, while the absence of words attracts. We often believe that to manifest a new reality, we need to repeat incessant prayers or verbalize our desires repeatedly. However, the act of continuously asking from a state of need only projects the frequency of scarcity into the quantum field. The universe does not respond to the words that come out of the mouth, but to the state of being. The excess of requests generates noise and anxiety. It is in the absolute absence of words, in the sacred space of silence, that we demonstrate true trust. It is silence that attracts because it assumes that the answer already exists. The protocol of 15 minutes of stimulus fasting, upon waking to stabilize alpha waves before daily chaos. When you open your eyes in the morning, resist the temptation to touch your phone. Remain in bed or sit in a comfortable chair for 15 minutes in absolute silence. Do not read, do not listen to music, do not plan the day. Just breathe and feel the weight of your body. This stimulus fasting allows your brain to stabilize alpha brainwaves, which are the bridge to the subconscious, before the accelerated frequencies of daily chaos take control of your biology. Imagine a lake of deep waters. If you want to see the secrets kept at the bottom, it does no good to throw more stones at the surface with the intention of pushing the water away. Each stone thrown creates new waves, stirring up the mud and clouding the vision even further. The stones are your obsessive thoughts and attempts at control. The only way to see the truth and clarity of the bottom is to allow the water to rest. Through quietude, the mud settles by itself, and the water becomes perfectly crystalline. The extreme fatigue of those who repeat positive affirmations while the stomach contracts with fear and scarcity. There is a deep exhaustion in trying to maintain a facade of optimism. We spend the day repeating phrases of prosperity and peace, but deep in our stomachs, we feel a subtle contraction, a cold tightening that says exactly the opposite. The fear of helplessness, the pain of rejection, or the certainty of scarcity. This internal division drains our vital force and leaves us exhausted. Heart coherence and the collapse of the wave function. Why the unified field responds to what you feel in your abdomen, not to what you repeat in your mind. According to research by Gregg Braden and the HeartMath Institute, the heart generates the body's largest electromagnetic field. The collapse of the wave function in the quantum field, that is, the materialization of a possibility into physical reality, occurs when there is coherence between the brain and the heart. If your mind projects an image of abundance, but your abdomen and your heart vibrate at the frequency of fear, the quantum matrix will respond to the densest and deepest emotion, and not to words repeated mechanically. The hidden danger of performative spirituality that masks trauma with high vibration jargon. Forcing yourself to always be in a high vibration can become a dangerous trap. When we use spiritual jargon to sweep our pains, griefs, and traumas under the rug, we create a performative spirituality. Real healing does not happen by pretending that pain does not exist, but by welcoming it. All healing begins with the acceptance of what hurts. Biophotonic breathing exercise to slow down heartbeats and signal biological safety to the cells. Place one hand over the center of your chest and the other over your abdomen. Inhale slowly through your nose, counting to 4, directing the air to the base of your lungs, expanding your abdomen. Exhale through your mouth, gently counting to 6. As you exhale, imagine that the residual energy of stress is being released. This breathing pattern activates the parasympathetic nervous system, slowing down heartbeats and sending a chemical signal of biological safety to all your cells. Think of an old radio with a manual tuner. If you want to listen to a soft classical melody that brings peace to the spirit, it is useless to shout at the device or clean its display if the tuning knob remains fixed on the frequency of a loud and stressful news station. As long as you keep your internal signature trapped in the frequency of stress and fear, the quantum field will continue to reproduce the same noise in your external life. You must change the internal tuning. The feeling of carrying a hereditary destiny of losses, pains, and repetitive cycles in the family. Sometimes we look at our history and notice the same patterns of scarcity, broken marriages, loneliness, or illnesses that our parents and grandparents faced. A feeling of helplessness arises, as if we were condemned by an invisible biological or family destiny, fated to repeat the same mistakes and suffer the same chronic pains. The Biology of Belief, Bruce Lipton, and How the Pause of Silence Interrupts the Discharge of Cortisol, Changing the Reading of Cellular Receptors. Dr. Bruce Lipton demonstrated through epigenetics that genes do not control our destiny. It is the cellular environment, shaped by our perceptions and emotions, that determines which genes will be expressed. When we live in continuous stress, the constant discharge of cortisol negatively alters cell receptors. The conscious pause and silence interrupt this destructive chemistry, creating an environment of neutrality where cells can stop reading the old patterns of self-sabotage and initiate a process of regeneration. Changing your life does not require muscular effort or fighting against the world, but rather ceasing the automatic reaction to old triggers. We were taught that to change our reality we need to fight, work to exhaustion, and confront obstacles with rigidity. However, at the quantum level, true change occurs when we stop reacting automatically to the usual stimuli. Muscular effort only reinforces resistance. Profound transformation happens in quietude, when you choose not to feed the old pattern with your attention. The 0-point technique. How to silence for 30 seconds in the middle of an argument or moment of stress to reconfigure the neurological response. Whenever you notice that you are about to react with anger, fear, or urgency during a phone call, email, or argument, apply the 0-point. Interrupt your speech, close your eyes if possible, or simply fix your gaze on a neutral point. For 30 seconds, do not make any decisions, do not answer, and focus only on the silence between your thoughts. This small pause breaks the reflex arc of the amygdala and reconfigures your neurological response. Imagine that your mind is a computer running an old program that is freezing the entire operating system of your life. Trying to solve the problem by pounding on the keyboard or opening new windows only makes it worse. Conscious silence functions as the reset command. It clears temporary memory, interrupts the corrupted line of code that was causing the self-sabotage, and allows the system to restart from a clean, pure, and original state. The silent anguish of watching the years pass and feeling that your internal potential is locked behind an invisible door. Looking back and noticing time rushing evokes a deep melancholy. We look at our unfulfilled dreams and feel a painful urgency, a latent fear that it is too late to find the balance, love, or spiritual stability we so deeply seek. This haste generates a continuous sense of helplessness. Nonlinear time in the quantum field, and how urgency creates a force vector opposite to desire, readiness potential. In quantum physics and concepts of pure consciousness, time is not a rigid line, but a web of infinite possibilities that coexist in the present moment. When we feed urgency and the need to control when things will happen, we generate what Tom Campbell describes as an increase in entropy in the system. Haste creates a force vector opposite to our desire, pushing the manifestation away because it reinforces the frequency of, "I don't have it yet." Why, letting go does not mean giving up, but rather removing the weight of importance that transforms your dream into an emotional prison. Many people are afraid to practice detachment or the act of letting go, believing that it means giving up on their goals. Neville Goddard's law of assumption reminds us that you must assume the feeling of the wish already fulfilled. By letting go, you do not give up on your dream. You simply remove the load of anxiety and the exaggerated importance that turned that search into a prison. Letting go is the ultimate expression of silent certainty. Mental model to transmute haste into silent certainty through the cultivation of the witness presence state. In the face of impatience, shift your perspective to the role of an observer of your own life. Instead of identifying with the role of someone suffering from the delay, breathe deeply and mentally repeat to yourself, "I am the witness observing this moment. The universe knows the way." Assume the role of the consciousness that watches events unfold with calmness, knowing that physical reality needs a gestation time to align with your new vibration. Think of a small and precious seed planted beneath the dark earth. If you go to the garden every day and dig up the soil with your fingers to check if the root is already growing, you will destroy the natural process and kill the plant before it sprouts. Silence and detachment are like the dark and firm soil. Quantum gestation happens invisibly to human eyes. Trusting the silence of the earth is what allows the root to strengthen so that the tree can bloom at the right time. The hyperstimulated mind that seeks answers in cards, horoscopes, and external validations because it cannot bear its own company. We live in a moment where uncertainty scares us so much that we have become dependent on immediate external answers. We consult predictions, seek validation in others' opinions, and consume content frantically, trying to find someone to tell us what will happen tomorrow. This unceasing search masks a profound inability to sit in silence with our own doubts. The hijacking of the amygdala by cheap dopamine and how sensory saturation creates a fog that prevents the prefrontal cortex from accessing quantum insights. The rapid consumption of information and stimuli causes constant dopamine spikes in the brain. This mechanism hyperactivates the amygdala, keeping us in a state of superficial alertness. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for elevated intuition, clarity, and connection with the unified field, becomes obscured by this sensory fog. We become anesthetized to perceiving the subtle whispers of our own inner wisdom. The true answer you seek never comes as a loud voice in the room, but as an empty space that opens up in perception. We expect the great directions of life to be accompanied by thunderous signs or dramatic revelations. However, in the dynamics of pure consciousness, real intuition is subtle. It does not compete with the noise of the world. The answer arises as a gentle certainty, a space of peace that opens up in perception when the analytical mind finally falls silent and gives up debating. The dark room ritual, 5 minutes of daily sensory deprivation to recalibrate subtle perception receptors. Choose a period of your day to isolate yourself in a completely dark and silent environment. Turn off all electronic devices. Sit comfortably, keep your eyes closed, and remain for 5 minutes without performing any focused mental activity. Only feel the silence and the absence of light. This simple exercise of sensory deprivation helps to recalibrate brain receptors, clearing the excess of dopamine and opening channels for intuitive perception. Imagine the mirror of a bathroom after a long, hot bath. The accumulated steam completely fogs the glass, preventing you from seeing your own reflection. If you try to clean the mirror in a hurry using your hands, you will only smudge the surface, making the image distorted. It is no use forcing it. The only way to see your true face clearly is to turn off the hot water, cease the accelerated thoughts, and allow the air to cool naturally, dissipating the steam through quietude. Going to bed reviewing bills, past grievances, or imaginary conversations, waking up more tired than when you lay down. Bedtime should be a moment of sanctuary, but it frequently transforms into a courtroom. We lay our heads on the pillow and begin to review finances, relive old grievances, or feed imaginary arguments with people who hurt us. The result is a fragmented sleep and a heavy awakening, carrying the same fatigue in the soul. The hypnagogic state transition between beta, theta, and delta waves, and the permeability of the subconscious during nighttime quantum anchoring. In the minutes preceding deep sleep, our brain enters the hypnagogic state, slowing down the rhythm of brainwaves from beta to alpha, and then to theta and delta. At this stage, the critical factor of the analytical mind diminishes, leaving the subconscious completely open and permeable. Everything you place in your mind at this moment acts as a direct instruction to your biology and to the quantum field, shaping your reality while your physical body rests. The last 5 minutes of your day dictate the vibrational signature of the next 8 hours in the subtle plane. No matter how difficult your day was, the last 5 minutes before falling asleep are the most valuable for your energetic economy. If you sleep watching violent news or immersed in worries, you anchor your energy to those dense frequencies during all the hours of sleep. Choosing silence or gratitude in these final moments rewrites the programming that will be processed by your subconscious. The screen cleansing technique, a mental exercise to demagnetize the images of the previous day and enter sleep in a state of quantum vacuum. When you lie down, close your eyes and breathe deeply 3 times. Imagine that all the scenes, conversations, and pending matters of the day that passed are images projected on movie screens around you. Mentally see each of these screens turning off, one by one, until only a dark, empty, and peaceful space remains. Say silently to yourself, "The day is over. I surrender this time to the quantum vacuum." Allow yourself to fall asleep in this state of purity and neutrality. Imagine a boatman who needs to cross a dense river during the night to reach the shore of a new solid ground. If he insists on loading the boat with all the debris, stones, and weights accumulated throughout the day, the vessel will become heavy, risking sinking in the dark mist of the river. However, if he chooses to empty the boat before departing, leaving the cargo on the old shore, the navigation will be light and safe, allowing him to anchor gently at dawn on a beach of calm and renewed waters. The weight of chronic grievances, unelaborated grief, or rejections that seem sewn into the skin. There are pains that accompany us for so long that they become part of our identity. The grief for someone who left, the wound of an abandonment, or the bitterness over an injustice undergo a process of crystallization within us. We feel these feelings as physical weights in the chest or shoulders, as if they were sewn into our own skin, limiting our capacity to breathe and live with lightness. Cellular memory and nodes of condensed energy in the physical body. Joe Dispenza. How silent attention acts as a laser beam that dissolves these densities. Dr. Joe Dispenza explains that a chronic emotion is nothing more than energy condensed and stored in the physical body, creating a traumatic cellular memory. When we direct our conscious attention to these dense regions, without trying to change anything, without judging or telling stories about the past, we act as a laser beam of pure consciousness. Compassionate silence alters the vibratory frequency of this blocked energy, allowing the node to begin to disorganize and dissolve. Healing a pain does not mean talking about it without stopping, but rather giving it the space of silence so that it dissipates without judgment. We have been conditioned to believe that to overcome a trauma we need to talk about it repeatedly, analyzing every detail exhaustively. However, retelling the painful story frequently reactivates the same neural and chemical circuits of the past, keeping the body trapped in suffering. True healing does not need more narratives. It needs silence. It is in silence that we allow the pain to exist until it loses strength and dissipates due to a lack of fuel. Somatic tracking. Focusing silence on the region of the body where the emotion tightens until the frequency shifts from contraction to expansion. Sit in a comfortable position and close your eyes. Locate where your current pain manifests physically in the body, be it a tightness in the chest, a knot in the throat, or tension in the stomach. Direct all your attention to that exact point. Do not try to push the discomfort away. Just observe its shape and temperature. Breathe towards this region, enveloping it with a compassionate silence. Remain observing until you notice that the feeling of contraction begins to give way to a subtle expansion. Imagine a rigid and thick block of ice that accumulated in a dark corner after a long winter storm. If you try to break this ice using the force of a hammer, you will create sharp and loud shards, but the rigidity will still be present in the essence of those stones. Compassionate silence does not act with violence. It is like the steady and silent sun of dawn. It just shines with constancy and warmth upon the block of ice, melting its rigid structure without noise, until all that density transforms into fluid, clean water, free to follow its natural course. We have reached the end of this meeting of ours in the sanctuary of silence. I would like you to carry this deep certainty with you. It is not what happens outside. It is what vibrates within. The frequency of gratitude rewrites your reality at every moment you choose to silence the voices of doubt and despair. You are not alone. The universe listens to you in every breath and in every conscious pause. Allow the old stories and demands for control to stay in the past. Always remember that healing is not an exhausting effort of the mind, but a trusting surrender of the soul to the intelligence of the unified field. To close our reflective journey today, I leave one last question for your heart. What if the pain you feel today is the portal to the life you have always sought? May silence heal what words cannot reach. Gratitude.